You're listening to Leadership Loading, a podcast that inspires leaders to be continuous learners and provides insight for those making the leap from the front line to the boardroom. My name is Jason McClaren, and I'm an Air Force firefighter veteran and safety expert turned entrepreneur and nonprofit director. I'm sitting down with industry leaders to talk about their leadership traits and lessons they have learned that can make an impact on future leaders. Hey everyone, this is Leadership Loading, and I'm your host, Jason McClaren. This is part 8 of our 8-part series on resilient leadership, and this episode is on reframing your skills. And I've got my buddy, Sean Douglas here. He's a speaker, podcast host, author, and fellow Air Force veteran. I thought he'd be the perfect guy to come on and talk about this today. So Sean, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I was honored when I saw all that happening, and I was like, man, I got to be a part of this. This is going to be awesome.
Definitely. So let's jump right in. Tell everybody what you do and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So what I do is work with entrepreneurs, speakers, and business owners to improve their positioning in the marketplace, which increases their profitability, decreases their anxiety and stress, so their business thrives. We launch podcasts, we launch books, we launch speaker careers, and we launch businesses.
Definitely. Can you tell us a little bit about your military background?
Yeah, man. So right after 9/11, I was working at Discount Tire as a warehouse manager. Graduated high school with like a 1.9, 2.0, wasn't really doing much in life. Really had no plan. And then 9/11 happened. And then I joined the military on 9/12. And I chose the Air Force because at one point I wanted to be a pilot. So I went in the Air Force as a tactical aircraft maintenance specialist, which is basically a crew chief on F-15s. And I've been all over the world working on F-15s. I did that for about 5 years. And then I went to depot and I worked 16s, A-10s, and 22s. And depot is where we rip them apart, completely inspect them, new parts and pieces, new paint. It's all brand new aircraft. We rip it apart, put it back together, and then send it to their duty station. I did that for a few years. And then I became a drill instructor, which is a MTI, a military training instructor. And I did that for 4 years at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio. I did that. And then after that, I transferred over to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base in North Carolina. And that's pretty much where I've been since 2013. And probably here soon we'll end up leaving and and going wherever I'm going to retire at. So
awesome. Yeah, I think even just your military experience there is all about reframing and having to do the different jobs and that sort of thing. So that kind of just peaks off of this. And when I was writing the intro for this, I thought reframing kind of reminds me of like construction, framing up and putting the right emphasis on the right design and or the task at hand.
Yep, absolutely, man. Nailed it. Yeah. They always say that you can't do one step before the other, right? You can't put the frame up unless you got the foundation. And the foundation is really what allows you to reframe, in my opinion. It allows you to reframe. As long as you got a good foundation, you got something to build on.
Yeah. So, when we're reframing skills, if you've lost what you've been looking at, lost your belief in something, how can you reframe your skills to kind of get that belief back into you?
So I have what I built is like this shirt, Goals Are Just Dreams with a Deadline. I have a clothing line called LYB Clothing Inc. And one of the shirts that is on there is called Reframe Your Mind, Reframe Your Life. A lot of us see negativity. A lot of us see positivity, but we don't just always see it one way or the other. We're negative one day, we're positive the next. No one's always positive. No one's always negative. There's always some moment in life where we kind of got it dialed in for that moment, for that day, for that, right, whatever. But life happens and it knocks down the positive people, or something amazing happens and lifts up the negative people just for that one moment. But if you reframe the way that you accept those moments, then you reframe your life. And the way that you do that is by asking yourself, what's great about this? No matter what, positive or negative, you always ask yourself, what's great about this? And then you start counting blessings. Maybe it's an unexpected blessing. Maybe it's a blessing that really you knew was coming. I mean, really deep down, you're like, I applied for the job. I knew I was going to get the job. I'm so qualified for it. Nailed it. Or you know that you're going to get promoted in the military. You know that you're going to get promoted. Like, I've studied. I got this. Boom. Nailed it. Crushed it. But other people are not like that. So when unexpected, amazing awesomeness happens, sometimes the negative people are like, no, it's too good to be true. And I don't know. It takes them a minute to kind of accept that moment that just happened to them. However, when the negative comes, they say, oh, I knew it. I knew it was going to happen. But always ask yourself what's great about this, and then start counting blessings, even in the negative moments. That is how you reframe your life.
Definitely. And you do a talk about, pretty much reframing your life, and I like, it's hacking your brain into rewiring it to be successful. And, I think a lot of us transitioning, especially transition military, we've got to do that. We've got to hack our brain and kind of rewire, restructure, reframe, and kind of readapt to the outside world. So can you elaborate on that some?
Yeah, absolutely. So the talk that you're referring to was where I gave people literal steps that they could take to reframe their mind so that they could reframe their life. And there's a lot of scientific research studies that have been out about how to reframe your mind and reframe your life. For example, there's a taxi cab study that was done many years ago. And what it says is the people who came up with a way, a strategy, a system, a belief about whatever it was they were doing. They took 72 London cab drivers, called the London Cab Driver Research Study. And what they did was they found that those people who actually believed, actually had a system, actually had a strategy, and worked towards reframing, or the memorization of the roads, but reframed the way that they looked at it, changed their brain's nervous structure, which is the hippocampus, which is responsible for spatial navigation. They actually enlarged their hippocampus area, which allowed them to pass the test. Those that did not do that didn't pass the test, or took up to 12 times to pass the test. They then took other people, cops, lawyers, doctors, random people off the street, anybody, and said, we want to MRI your brain. And their hippocampus was not as large as these London cab drivers that they had been studying. Wow. Which goes to show that if you have a system, if you reframe your mind, you can reframe your life, and you can actually rewire your brain to be successful.
And you think that's what we do as entrepreneurs and even military, you have to do that to kind of, get back in that groove or get into that new mindset.
Oh, 100% every time we deploy, right?
Yeah.
Every time we deploy, we got to learn new skills. Every time we deploy, we have a new mission. Every time we deploy, they give us those ROEs, right? They give us those ROEs, they give us the SOPs, and they said, this is going to be how we're going to operate. And you got to kind of learn that new way. And once you get into that, you ever seen somebody just struggle and struggle and struggle? You're like, dude, I don't understand how you can't get this. Like, it's black and white, just do it. But they struggle because they're trying to do it the same way every time. If you don't adapt to your surroundings, if you don't reframe the way that you look at things, that's like people have said, like, well, for years, you said this one thing, or you believe this one thing, and everybody goes, well, people change. Well, I hope so, because they reframed their mind. If you believed one way before, and 10 years later, something happened in your life, and now you believe a different thing, that's because you reframed your mind. Something happened to not live that way. Let's say that a drunk driver is not a drunk driver anymore. He's not an alcoholic anymore. He's not a whatever anymore because he got in a car accident and almost killed somebody.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to reframe somebody. Most people, that's going to reframe somebody, right?
Right.
It's good. It's going to make an impact. So those transformational moments that we have are opportune times to then reframe the way that you see the world, because most of the time, 99% of the time, your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs are driving all of your reactions. And if you're waiting for it to happen and it's not happening, then you need to reframe your mind. Otherwise, it's insanity, and you keep doing the same things over and over again, expecting a different outcome.
Definitely. I've got two follow-ups on that. So like you talk about doing the same thing as everybody else, these people look at these course gurus and that sort of thing on the internet. And, especially if you're trying to start a business or grow a business, I think a lot of people think, oh, well, they did this and it worked great, so I'm going to try to copy it. Or same thing with social media, trying to find trends. I think we got to reframe ourselves, or rethink outside the box and kind of go from there. But also kind of going on the other end of that about, adjusting to new mindsets. Being a drill instructor, you probably saw this a lot. How or should we reframe ourselves, to improve or fit ourselves into an individual organization? Obviously military, you adapt or you wash out. But what about us on the civilian sector?
Okay, that's a very good question. So the way that I'm understanding what you're getting at is that in the military, you assess, adapt, and overcome. You have to. You have to assess. You have to adapt. You have to overcome. But what about what about the civilians who are not military? I mean, in the military, you sign a contract. You're there for 4 years unless they kick you out.
Right.
Civilians are like, you suck, you're fired.
Yeah.
Like, pretty quickly. Like in the first couple of weeks, they'll be like, yeah, you suck. You're not good. Goodbye.
Yep.
How you can reframe your mind is have a why for what you do. Why did you take this job? Does this job even matter to you? What really matters to you? Two things in life that people will never willingly give up is time and money. Time and money are two things that people willingly never give up, because that is the greatest asset that they own. It's either their money or their time. Especially if you're an entrepreneur and a businessman or a speaker or whatever, time is money. All right. So you have to concentrate on your DPAs, which are dollar producing activities. But moreover, let's say that you work somewhere. Why do you have that job? Is it because you really need to pay bills because of some other life reason? You lost your house in a hurricane, or you are now an empty nester and you were supporting kids for a while and now you need something to do. I mean, you really need to figure out why it is you're doing what you're doing, and then capitalize on that, double down on the why. And that's going to motivate you and drive you forward to make you want to learn, to make you want to reassess, to make you want to be the best that you can do, instead of going, well, I don't really need this job. Well, then What's the motivation for being there? Right.
Definitely. What about those military people that get out and, they got a job because that's what the Air Force gave them, and now they want to do something else? How can they?
I mean, you could always cross-train. I mean, there's nothing to say that you can't cross-train. I know plenty of people who have cross-trained, but if you can't cross-train, again, reframe your mind. Count blessings every single day. Okay, I couldn't cross-train, or I don't have the job that I love, but what's great about this? What is great about this moment right now? And then just start counting blessings. Yeah. There's blessings everywhere. You just got to open up your mind. Remember, for example, if you think everything is negative, all you're going to see is negativity. If you see positivity a lot in your life, then you'll be able to spout out the positivities. It's like nobody is driving a white Cobra Ford Mustang with black rims, whatever. I bought it. Now everybody has one. Right. Like, what? They were all there before. You bought a brand new Chevy Traverse. You bought a brand new truck. You never saw these trucks before. Maybe you saw a black Tundra every once in a while. Now, black Tundras are everywhere. This Chevy Traverse is everywhere.
Yeah.
That's because you weren't finding it. You weren't looking for it. Your mind wasn't searching for that. You bought one, and now guess what? You're searching for it. You're looking for it. You're noticing it. Again, reframing. All you did was reframe your mind and do, I love this car. I'm going to buy the car. Shit, now see it everywhere. Well, yeah, because you're in that world now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's the same thing with podcasting. I mean, I got into the podcasting, and now I'm seeing all the tips and tricks and all that everywhere. And I probably saw it before. I just didn't notice it. And then when I listen to other podcasts, I say, oh, well, that's, something I need to improve on mine, or I need to, work on mine. So yeah, we can definitely use those skills and reframe whatever we're doing, if you're jumping to a new career or trying to start a business. So good deal.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, 100%.
All right, so tell us about your clothing line.
Yeah, so LYB Clothing Inc. is an affirmation and empowerment clothing line. What I believe is that when you are fully transparent and living in your truth, then you can absolutely reframe your mind. And it was brought on because I always tell people, like, dude, live your brand. What is your brand? Everybody wants to talk about branding.
Right.
Oh, I'm a branding expert. Oh, I'm going to show you how to brand you. Well, what does that mean? It can mean a lot of different things. It's not just the colors in your logo. Yes, that's branding. It's not just the prettiness of your website. Okay, that's a little bit of a brand. But what is the brand? What does it stand for? What does it mean? What do you love? What are you passionate about? Why are you doing what you're doing? That's all part of branding. When you brand somebody, let's say you brand somebody as not a nice guy, right? They're not a nice guy. You just put a label on him. You put a brand on him. You branded him. Not a nice guy. Well, that doesn't stop there. What makes them not a nice guy? Well, it's the way they act, the way they talk, the way they look at people, the way they treat people, the way they this and this and this, the way they dress, the way they, right? You've come up with all kinds of reasons. But yet we tell people like, oh, you got to brand yourself. Well, brand myself as a what? Brand myself how? And then it gets kind of dicey there, right? So I created LYB Clothing Inc., which means live your brand. LYB is live your brand. Live your brand. Not what Nike believes, not what Reebok believes, not what the military believes. It's what Jason believes. It's what Sean believes. It's what Stu and Sarah and Jesse and who everybody else, Sally, it's what they believe. You live in your brand because most people live in the reality of what other people think about them rather than living in the reality of what you think about you. And that, my friend, is the ultimate reframe that we can ever have. Live in the reality of what you think about you, not in the reality of what other people think about you. I do this with my kids. I look at my kids, I'm like, man, they have so much potential. The problem is that most parents live in the reality of who their kids were or who their kids are, not who their kids could become.
Yeah.
They live in the now. They look at their kids, they go, this is who they are. They don't look at their kids as the potential that they could bring to the world. And I think as parents, if we reframed the way that we looked at our kids into the potential that they have, not who they are or what they messed up in the past or who they were, that, my friend, is the ultimate reframe.
Awesome. Awesome. Anything else?
No, man. I'm here for you. I'm here for the audience, whatever they need.
Definitely. Yeah, thanks for being my first Air Force guy on. You know, I thought being an Air Force guy, I'm going to have all these Air Force guys, and every time I reach out to them, they're busy. And I've had an Army and Navy. I've had Army, Navy, now Air Force. Got to work on the other guys. So
I know a couple of Marines that'll be good for you.
There you go. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for coming on.
You gotta come on my show too, man. You gotta come on my show.
Yeah, definitely.
This is what we talk about. We talk a lot about the reframing, and we talk about the transformational moments and all that.
I got the link. I just got to look at my calendar. I know we went back and forth on getting some of this coordinated with all the stuff that's going on in the world right now. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. I'll let you get to it. I know you got to go get your family.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Leadership Loading Podcast. You can support this podcast on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/leadershiploading to get access to exclusive content, chats, and a whole lot more. Again, that's patreon.com/leadershiploading or visit our website, leadershiploading.com, for more options.